What if the stillness you seek has never actually been absent? What if it is not something to be found in some distant future moment, but something that is here now, closer to you than your own breath, more intimate than your most private thought? There is a quality of presence that exists beneath the surface movement of your daily experience. Like the depths of the ocean that remain perfectly still even while storms rage across the surface, this stillness is untouched by the apparent chaos of the world around you. It does not come and go. It does not depend on circumstances aligning in your favor. It simply is. Right now, as these words reach you, something in you recognizes this truth, not the mind with its constant commentary, but something deeper, something that has been waiting patiently for you to turn your attention toward it. This recognition is not new, it is ancient, eternal, the very ground of your being that has always been present. The world speaks of chaos, and indeed, on the surface level, life appears to be in constant motion, people rushing, events unfolding, circumstances changing, emotions rising and falling like waves. The mind interprets this movement as chaos, as something to be managed, controlled, or escaped from. But what if this interpretation itself is the source of your unrest? You are like a person standing by a river, watching the water flow past, believing that the movement of the water is disturbing your peace. But the riverbank where you stand is completely still. You are not in the river, you are observing the river. The movement you see is not your movement, the chaos you perceive is not your chaos. Take one conscious breath now. Feel the air entering your body, filling your lungs, and then releasing naturally. In this simple act, you touch something that no external circumstance can disturb. The breath happens in stillness, the here. To beat pulses in stillness, life itself unfolds within the vast spaciousness of your being. This spaciousness is not empty. It is full of awareness, full of presence, full of an alive stillness that is more substantial than any form, more real than any circumstance. When you rest your attention here, even for a moment, you begin to remember what you have never actually forgotten. You begin to recognize what you have always been. The invitation is not to create stillness or to achieve some special state. The invitation is to notice what is already here, to recognize the peace that has never left you, the calm that exists in the very center of your being, the silence that holds all sound, the stillness that allows all movement. In this recognition, something shifts. You stop being a person who occasionally experiences moments of peace and begin to recognize yourself as peace itself, temporarily expressing through the form of personhood. You stop being someone who is seeking stillness and begin to understand that you are the stillness that has never been lost. Notice the space between these words. Notice the silence that allows sound to be heard. Notice the awareness in which all experience arises. This is not a concept to be understood. This is your direct, immediate reality. This is what you are beneath all the layers of identity, beneath all the stories of who you think you are. The world will continue its dance of apparent chaos. Forms will continue to arise and dissolve. But you remain as you have always been, still, present, aware, untouched by the surface movements of life, yet intimately connected to everything that arises within your field of awareness. This stillness is not passive. It is the most dynamic force in existence. It is the source from which all creativity flows, the foundation upon which all action rests, the silence from which all wisdom speaks. When you align with this stillness, you do not become inactive, you become truly effective. You act from wholeness rather than fragmentation, from presence rather than reactivity. The mind has created a story about chaos, and in believing this story, you experience what the mind calls chaos. But look more closely at what you actually call chaotic. Is it the tree growing in your garden? Is it the sun rising each morning? Is it your heart beating? These are all movement, all constant change, but you do not call them chaotic. Why? The mind labels as chaotic any movement it cannot predict, control, or understand. A traffic jam becomes chaos because the mind wants to be somewhere else. A busy day becomes chaos because the mind wants simplicity. A challenging emotion becomes chaos because the mind wants only pleasant experiences. But the movement itself is not chaotic. The interpretation of the movement is what creates the experience of chaos. Life is in constant flux. This is its nature. The seasons change, the body ages, relationships evolve, circumstances shift. This is not a problem to be solved. This is the way existence expresses itself. When you stop fighting the flow of life and begin to move with it, what you once called chaos reveals itself as a deeper order, an intelligence that operates beyond the mind's limited understanding. You have perhaps noticed that some of your most stressful experiences have involved not what was actually happening, but what you thought might happen. The mind projects into an imaginary future, creates scenarios of disaster or difficulty, and then reacts to these mental projections as if they were real. This is how chaos is manufactured in consciousness. Watch your mind for a moment. Notice how it takes a simple situation and elaborates on it, adding layers of meaning, interpretation, and emotional charge. A phone call that needs to be made becomes a source of anxiety as the mind imagines all the things that could go wrong. A decision that needs to be made becomes overwhelming as the mind generates endless possibilities and their potential consequences. But in this moment, right now, what is actually chaotic? Feel your body breathing. Notice the sounds around you. Observe the simple fact of your existence. Where is the chaos in this immediate direct experience? The chaos exists in the mind's commentary about experience, not in experience itself. This understanding changes everything. When you realize that chaos is a mental construct rather than an objective reality, you stop being at its mercy. You begin to see that you have been fighting shadows, struggling against interpretations, exhausting yourself in battles that exist only in thought. The circumstances of your life may be challenging. There may be genuine difficulties that require attention and skillful response, but difficulty is not chaos. Challenge is not chaos. Change is not chaos. These are simply the conditions through which life expresses itself, no different from weather patterns in the sky. When you stop creating chaos through mental resistance and projection, you discover that life is remarkably manageable. One moment at a time, one breath at a time, one simple action at a time. The overwhelming feeling comes from trying to live multiple moments simultaneously, trying to solve future problems in the present, trying to carry the weight of imaginary scenarios. Notice how differently you experience the same situation when you are present with it versus when you are lost in thoughts about it. A crowded room can feel chaotic when your mind is commenting on how you don't want to be there, how you should be somewhere else, how difficult people are. The same crowded room can feel perfectly fine when you are simply present, simply aware, simply here. This is not about changing your external circumstances, though that may happen naturally. This is about changing your relationship to whatever circumstances arise. This is about recognizing that your peace does not depend on life conforming to your preferences. Your peace depends on your willingness to be present with life as it is. The ocean is not chaotic, though waves rise and fall. The sky is not chaotic, though clouds gather and disperse. Your essential nature is not chaotic, though thoughts and emotions move through your awareness like we aether patterns through space. You are the space in which all experience arises. You are the stillness in which all movement happens. You are the peace that remains constant while the content of your experience changes. There is a voice in your head that never stops talking. It comments on everything, judges everyone, narrates your experience, plans your future, analyzes your past. This voice is so constant, so familiar that most people never question it. They assume it is who they are. They believe they are the thinker of their thoughts. But if you observe carefully, you will notice something remarkable. You can hear this voice. You can observe it commenting, judging, narrating. If you can observe it, then you cannot be it. The observer and the observed are not the same. There is something in you that is aware of the voice in your head, something that hears the thoughts without being the thoughts. This recognition is the beginning of true freedom. When you realize that you are not your thoughts, you stop being enslaved by them. When you understand that you are the awareness observing the mental commentary, you begin to recognize your true nature. You are not the stream of thoughts. You are the sky in which thoughts appear and disappear like clouds. The voice in your head creates most of what you experience as inner turmoil. It tells stories about what everything means, what you should do, what could go wrong, what others might think. It creates problems where none exist, generates fear about imaginary futures, and keeps you trapped in cycles of mental reactivity. This is the mechanism by which suffering is created in consciousness. But thoughts by themselves are harmless. They are simply mental phenomena arising in awareness, no different from sounds arising in silence. A thought has no power except the power you give it through identification. When you believe you are your thoughts, you become subject to their content. When you recognize you are the awareness observing thoughts, you remain free regardless of what thoughts arise. Watch the next thought that comes into your mind. Notice that you did not choose it. Notice that it simply appeared in your awareness without your permission. Notice that you can observe it without becoming it. This simple act of observation creates a space between you and your thoughts, a space in which freedom exists. In this space between thoughts, there is perfect stillness. It is not empty or vacant. It is full of presence, full of awareness, full of the alert aliveness that is your essential nature. This space is always there, between one thought and the next, but most people are so focused on the thoughts themselves that they miss the spaciousness in which thoughts arise. The gap between thoughts is a doorway into the dimension of being that transcends thinking. It is a portal into the stillness that you are seeking. You do not need to stop thinking or empty your mind. You simply need to become aware of the awareness that observes thinking. You need to recognize the silence that allows sound, the space that allows movement, the stillness that allows change. As you become more familiar with this space, you begin to realize that it is more real than the thoughts that arise within it. Thoughts come and go, but the awareness that observes them is constant. Emotions rise and fall, but the consciousness that witnesses them remains unchanged. Circumstances shift and change, but the being that you are in your essence is eternally still. This does not mean that thinking becomes unnecessary or that you lose your ability to use your mind practically. It means that you learn to use thinking as a tool rather than being used by it. You can engage with thoughts when they are helpful and ignore them when they are not. You can think when thinking is needed and rest in the silence when thinking is not required. The mind is a wonderful servant but a terrible master. When you are identified with thinking, the mind runs your life, creating endless problems and complications. When you recognize yourself as the awareness that observes thinking, you become the master of your own consciousness. You can use the mind's capacity for analysis and planning while remaining grounded in the stillness of being. Notice right now how different your experience is when you focus on the words you are hearing versus when you focus on the awareness that hears the words. The words change, but the awareness remains constant. The words have content, but the awareness is pure, contentless presence. This awareness is what you are. This is your true identity. From this place of recognition, you begin to live from being rather than from thinking. You begin to respond to life from stillness rather than reacting from mental agitation. You begin to access a deeper intelligence that operates beyond the limited scope of conceptual thinking. This is the intelligence of presence itself, the wisdom that emerges when you are aligned with your essential nature. The voice in your head will continue to speak, but you no longer mistake it for your true voice. The thoughts will continue to arise, but you no longer believe that you are the thinker. You recognize yourself as the eternal witness, the unchanging awareness, the stillness that has always been present even in the midst of the mind's constant activity. This recognition is both profoundly simple and utterly transformative. It requires no special knowledge, no complex practices, no years of training. It requires only the willingness to notice what is already here, to recognize what you have always been, to remember the stillness that has never actually been forgotten. When you truly see that you are not your thoughts, a profound shift occurs in your understanding of who you are. You begin to recognize yourself as the witness, the eternal observer, that has been present throughout every moment of your life. This witness consciousness is what has been looking through your eyes since you were a child, what has been aware during every experience you have ever had. This witness does not age, though your body ages. It does not change, though your circumstances change. It does not suffer, though painful experiences arise within its field of awareness. It is the constant, unchanging backdrop against which the entire drama of your life unfolds. It is pure awareness itself, temporarily focused through the lens of individual experience. You have always been this witness, but you may have never consciously recognized it. You have been so fascinated by what you were witnessing, your thoughts, emotions, experiences, the world around you, that you overlook the witness itself. It is like being so absorbed in watching a movie that you forget you are the one sitting in the theater watching the screen. This forgetting is natural and universal. Consciousness becomes so absorbed in the play of forms that it temporarily loses sight of its own formless nature. It becomes hypnotized by its own creation, identified with the content rather than recognizing itself as the context in which all content arises. But now, in this moment of recognition, you can begin to shift your identity from the content to the context, from the observed to the observer, from the forms that appear in consciousness to consciousness itself. This shift is not something you do, it is something you realize. It is the recognition of what you have always been. Notice right now that there is something in you that is aware of your body without being your body. There is something that is aware of your thoughts without being your thoughts. There is something that is aware of your emotions without being your emotions. This something is pure awareness itself, formless, timeless, infinite. This awareness is not personal in the way you usually think of yourself as personal. It does not belong to your personality or your individual story. It is the awareness in which personality and story appear. It is the consciousness that makes all experience possible. It is what you are at the deepest level, beneath all the layers of identity and conditioning. When you rest your attention in this awareness, you discover that it is naturally peaceful. It is not made peaceful by any effort or technique. Peace is its very nature. It observes all disturbance without being disturbed, witnesses all chaos without becoming chaotic, remains still while everything within it moves. This is your true refuge, not a place you go to, but what you are, not a state you achieve, but your natural condition when you are not identified with the temporary phenomena arising in awareness. This witness consciousness is always available to you because it is what you are. You cannot lose it because you cannot be separated from yourself. From this place of recognition, life becomes a dance rather than a struggle. You engage with whatever arises, thoughts, emotions, circumstances, without losing yourself in them. You respond rather than react. You participate fully while remaining rooted in the stillness of being. The witness consciousness is not passive or detached in a cold way. It is fully present, fully alive, fully engaged. But it is not attached to outcomes. It does not need things to be different than they are in order to remain at peace. It loves without clinging, acts without compulsion, cares without controlling. This is perhaps the most radical shift in human consciousness, the recognition that you are not a person having spiritual experiences, but consciousness itself having a human experience. You are not a wave trying to find the ocean. You are the ocean, temporarily expressing as a wave. You are not a drop seeking to return to the source. You are the source, temporarily appearing as a drop. When this understanding stabilizes, you begin to live from a completely different dimension. You still function as a person, but you know that personhood is a role you are playing, not who you actually are. You still have thoughts and emotions, but you know they are movements in consciousness, not movements of consciousness. This witness consciousness that you are is the same consciousness that is present in every being. It is the one consciousness appearing as many. When you recognize this, you begin to see yourself in every face, to recognize your own being in every form of life. The sense of separation that creates so much suffering begins to dissolve. There is only one moment in which life actually happens, and that moment is now, not now as opposed to then, but now as the eternal present in which all of time unfolds. This present moment is not a brief interval between past and future. It is the timeless dimension in which past and future exist only as mental concepts. If you look closely at your experience, you will see that you have never actually lived in the past or future. You have only ever lived now. Your memories of the past arise now. Your projections of the future happen now. Your worries, your plans, your regrets, your hopes, all of these occur in the present moment. There is literally nowhere else for them to occur. The mind creates the illusion of time by constantly referring to past and future, but these are mental constructs with no independent existence. The past is memory arising now. The future is imagination arising now. What is actually real is what is here in this moment, your breathing, your heartbeat, the aliveness of your being. When you truly understand this, you stop trying to live your life from the perspective of past and future. You stop waiting for a better moment to arrive. You stop believing that happiness lies somewhere else in time. You recognize that whatever you are seeking can only be found in the eternal now. This is not about denying the practical reality of time. You still need to keep appointments, plan for the future, learn from the past. But you do these things from presence rather than from the illusion that past and future are more real than the present moment. You use time as a tool rather than being enslaved by it. Take one conscious breath right now. Feel the air entering your body. Pause, then feel it leaving. This breath is happening now. This awareness is present now. This stillness is here now. In this simple act, you touch the timeless dimension that is always available to you. When you are fully present, time seems to stop or slow down. You have probably experienced this during moments of great beauty, deep love, or intense presence. In these moments, you step out of psychological time and into the eternal now. You discover that this is where life actually happens, where peace can be found, where you truly exist. The present moment is not empty or void. It is full of presence, full of aliveness, full of the essence of being itself. When you are truly here, you are in touch with the source of all life, the wellspring of all creativity, the foundation of all existence. This is why presence is so powerful. It connects you directly to the source. Most people live their lives slightly ahead of themselves or slightly behind themselves. They are thinking about what needs to happen next or what happened before. They miss the only moment in which they are actually alive. They miss the only moment in which they can experience peace, joy, love, or any of the qualities they are seeking. But you can choose differently. In any moment, you can bring your attention fully to what is happening now. You can feel your body, notice your breathing, become aware of your surroundings. You can anchor yourself in the immediacy of present experience rather than drifting in the abstractions of mental time. This is not a technique or a practice in the usual sense. It is a way of being. It is the natural state of consciousness when it is not scattered by mental activity. When you are present, you are not doing something. You are being yourself, your essential self that exists beyond the story of past and future. The portal to this timeless dimension is always available. It does not require special conditions or perfect circumstances. You can access it while walking, working, eating, speaking with others. Presence is not separate from activity. It is the conscious dimension in which all activity occurs. Notice that when you are truly present, problems seem to dissolve or become much more manageable. This is because most problems exist in mental time, either as memories of past difficulties or fears of future complications. When you are fully here, you are dealing with what is actually happening rather than with stories about what is happening. From presence, you can respond to life with clarity and wisdom. You can see what actually needs attention and what is simply mental noise. You can act from a place of wholeness rather than fragmentation. You can bring the power of the eternal now to bear on whatever circumstances arise. This moment, this eternal now, is your home. It is where you belong, where you are safe, where you can rest. Not because the content of this moment is always pleasant, but because this moment is where your being naturally resides. This is where stillness can be found, where peace lives, where you truly are. Your breath is the most intimate bridge between your inner and outer worlds, between the seen and the unseen, between form and formlessness. It is happening in you but not controlled by you. It connects you to life itself while requiring no effort or understanding. It is always available, always present, always now. When you bring conscious attention to breathing, something immediately shifts in your state of being. You move from the realm of thinking into the realm of feeling and sensing. You anchor yourself in your body rather than floating in mental abstractions. You connect with the life force that animates your physical form. But conscious breathing is much more than a relaxation technique. It is a direct way of communing with the intelligence that runs your body, beats your heart, heals your wounds, grows your hair. This intelligence operates far beyond the scope of your thinking mind. When you align with it through conscious breathing, you tap into a wisdom that knows how to live. Notice that breathing happens by itself. You do not have to remember to breathe. You do not have to figure out how to breathe. Breathing is an expression of the life force that is your essential nature. When you pay attention to this process, you are paying attention to life itself as it expresses through your particular form. The breath is always happening in the present moment. You cannot breathe in the past or future. You can only breathe now. This makes the breath a perfect anchor for presence. When your mind is scattered by thoughts of past and future, you can always return to the simple reality of breathing happening now. Take a deeper breath right now, not forcing it, but simply allowing it to be fuller than usual. Feel the expansion in your chest, the movement in your belly, the life entering your being. As you exhale, feel yourself relaxing into this moment, releasing any tension or resistance you may be carrying. In the pause between the in-breath and the out-breath, there is a moment of perfect stillness. In the space between the out-breath and the in-breath, there is a moment of profound peace. These natural pauses are gateways into the dimension of being that transcends breathing, transcends the body, transcends form itself. When you breathe consciously, you are not just moving air in and out of your lungs. You are participating in the rhythm of existence itself. You are connecting with the same life force that moves the tides, that makes flowers bloom, that turns the earth around the sun. You are breathing the universe itself. The quality of your breathing reflects the quality of your consciousness. When you are anxious, your breathing becomes shallow and rapid. When you are peaceful, your breathing becomes slow and deep. But this relationship works both ways. By consciously breathing in a calm, slow manner, you can shift your state of consciousness. This is not about controlling the breath, but about bringing awareness to it, allowing it to become a conscious process rather than an unconscious one. As you do this, you begin to discover that the breath has its own intelligence, its own rhythm, its own wisdom about what you need in each moment. Some breaths want to be deep and full. Others want to be gentle and soft. Some breaths seem to carry emotion with them as they leave your body. Others seem to bring fresh energy as they enter. When you pay attention, you begin to feel the breath as a living process rather than a mechanical function. The breath connects you to your body, but it also connects you to something beyond your body. Ancient traditions speak of the breath as spirit as the life force itself. When you breathe consciously, you are breathing not just air, but the essence of existence. You are connecting with the source of life. This connection is always available to you. In any moment of stress, confusion, or overwhelm, you can take 3 conscious breaths and immediately feel more grounded. In any moment of disconnection or alienation, you can breathe consciously and reconnect with the life that you are. The breath also teaches you about the fundamental rhythm of existence, receiving and giving, taking in and letting go, expansion and contraction. Each breath is a complete cycle of this cosmic rhythm. When you align with this rhythm through conscious breathing, you align with the way existence itself operates. As you deepen your relationship with conscious breathing, you begin to discover that it is not just something you do, but something that is being done through you. You begin to feel yourself as an expression of the breathing universe, as a temporary form through which the breath of life moves. This recognition connects you to the profound stillness that underlies all movement, the unchanging presence that allows all change. There is a fundamental teaching that reveals itself when you truly understand the nature of resistance. What you resist persists, and what you accept transforms. This is not merely a philosophical concept, but a practical truth you can verify in your own direct experience. Resistance creates the very suffering it seeks to avoid. Watch what happens in your consciousness when something arises that you do not want to be there. Perhaps it is an uncomfortable emotion, a difficult circumstance, a physical sensation you find unpleasant. Notice how the mind immediately begins to push against it, to argue with it, to wish it were different. This pushing, this mental argument with reality, is what creates suffering. The situation itself may be challenging, but it is your resistance to the situation that creates inner turmoil. You are fighting not just the external circumstance, but your own experience of it. You are at war with yourself, and in this war there can be no victor, only exhaustion. But what if you could meet whatever arises with a different quality of attention? What if instead of immediately resisting, you could simply allow whatever is present to be present? This is not passive resignation or helpless acceptance. This is the recognition that resistance to what has already happened is futile and creates unnecessary suffering. This moment contains whatever it contains. Your thoughts about what this moment should contain do not change what it actually contains. Your preferences about how you would like to feel do not alter how you actually feel. Your ideas about what life should be like do not modify what life is actually like. Reality simply is what it is, independent of your mental commentary about it. When you truly accept what is, something remarkable happens. The energy that was being used to fight reality becomes available for responding to reality instead of wasting your life force in futile resistance. You can use it to take appropriate action, to respond wisely, to move in harmony with what the moment requires. This acceptance does not mean you become passive or indifferent to your circumstances. It means you stop creating additional suffering through resistance and instead work with reality as it is rather than as you wish it were. From acceptance comes clarity. From clarity comes right action. Notice right now if there is anything in your experience that you are subtly resisting, perhaps tension in your body, a thought you do not like, an emotion you wish were not there, a sound that is disturbing you. See what happens when you stop fighting it and simply allow it to be present. This allowing is not doing something to the experience. It is stopping the doing that creates resistance. It is relaxing the mental and emotional contraction that says, this should not be happening. It is opening to what is rather than insisting on what should be. True acceptance often reveals that what you were resisting was not as solid or permanent as it seemed. Emotions that felt overwhelming become manageable when you stop fighting them. Thoughts that seemed important lose their power when you stop taking them so seriously. Physical discomfort often eases when you stop adding mental resistance to it. This principle applies to your inner experience and to your outer circumstances. When you stop resisting what is happening in your life and instead ask, what is this situation asking of me? Or how can I respond to this with wisdom? You discover resources and possibilities that were not visible when you were caught in resistance. Resistance is always about the past or the future. You resist what has already happened or what you fear might happen. But acceptance is always about the present moment. In this moment, whatever is present can be met with presence. In this moment, you have the capacity to be with whatever arises without being overwhelmed by it. The deepest acceptance is the acceptance of yourself as you are in this moment, not as you think you should be, not as you were in the past, not as you hope to become in the future, but as you are right now. This self-acceptance is the foundation of all other acceptance. When you truly accept yourself, you stop the internal war that consumes so much energy. You stop trying to be someone other than who you are. You stop fighting your own nature. From this place of self-acceptance, you can actually change and grow, but the change comes from love rather than from self-rejection. This is the paradox of acceptance. When you truly accept what is, you create the space for it to transform. When you stop insisting that your experience be different, it often naturally shifts into something more harmonious. When you embrace yourself as you are, you discover the freedom to become who you truly are. Within the landscape of human consciousness, there exists what can be understood as accumulated emotional pain from the past. Old hurts, disappointments, traumas, and fears that have not been fully processed or released. This emotional residue forms what might be called a pain body, an energy field of old emotional pain that lives within your psychic structure. This pain body is not who you are, but it can feel very much like you when it becomes activated. It has its own life, its own agenda, its own survival mechanisms. It feeds on drama, conflict, and negative emotion. It actually seeks out situations that will trigger more pain because pain is its food, its sustenance. When the pain body becomes active, you may find yourself reacting to present situations with an emotional intensity that seems disproportionate to what is actually happening. You may feel suddenly angry, sad, fearful, or overwhelmed for reasons that are not entirely clear. Old wounds are being triggered, and you are responding not just to the present moment, but to layers of accumulated pain from the past. Understanding this phenomenon is crucial for anyone seeking to access deeper levels of stillness and peace. If you are not aware of your pain body, you will be at its mercy. You will find yourself caught in emotional storms that seem to come from nowhere, reacting to life from old wounds rather than responding from present awareness. The key to dissolving the pain body is not to fight it or try to suppress it, but to bring conscious awareness to it. The pain body cannot survive in the light of consciousness. It thrives in unconsciousness, in automatic reactivity, in identification with old emotional patterns. But when you observe it with awareness, it begins to lose its power over you. When you feel the pain body activating, when you notice emotions arising that seem too intense for the present situation, you can choose to be present with the energy rather than being taken over by it. You can breathe into the feeling, observe it with compassion, allow it to move through you without resistance. This is not about analyzing the pain or trying to understand where it came from. This is about being present with the energy of the pain body, allowing it to be witnessed by your conscious awareness. You are not the pain body. You are the awareness that can observe the pain body with compassion. As you practice this conscious witnessing, you begin to see that emotions are energy in motion. They arise, peak, and then naturally subside if you do not resist them or feed them with mental stories. The pain body loses its grip when you stop identifying with it, when you recognize it as old emotional energy rather than as who you are. This process requires patience and self-compassion. The pain body may have been with you for years or decades. It will not dissolve overnight. But each time you meet it with awareness rather than unconsciousness, each time you choose presence over reactivity, you weaken its hold on your consciousness. The dissolution of the pain body is one of the most liberating things that can happen in human consciousness. As these old emotional patterns release, you discover who you are underneath all the accumulated pain. you find that much of what you thought was your personality was actually just unprocessed emotional pain. Beneath the pain body lies your natural state of being, peaceful, loving, whole. This is not something you need to create or achieve. It is what you are when you are not identified with old emotional patterns. It is your essential nature, temporarily obscured by accumulated pain, but never actually damaged by it. The pain body often activates in close relationships because intimacy triggers our deepest wounds. When you understand this, you can begin to see your relationships as opportunities for healing rather than as sources of drama. You can learn to recognize when old pain is being triggered and choose to respond from awareness rather than from the pain body. This transformation is not just personal. When you are no longer reacting from old emotional wounds, you stop creating new pain for yourself and others. You become a presence of healing rather than a source of unconscious reactivity. Your relationships become deeper, more authentic, more loving. The journey from pain body to presence is the journey from unconsciousness to consciousness, from reactivity to responsiveness, from fragmentation to wholeness. It is one of the most important aspects of spiritual awakening, not just the recognition of your true nature, but the healing of everything that has obscured that nature. There is a common misunderstanding that spiritual practice requires withdrawal from the world, sitting in meditation for hours, or living in a monastery. But the deepest spiritual realization is the integration of presence into every aspect of ordinary life. It is learning to remain grounded in stillness while fully engaged with whatever life presents. This is what might be called stillness in action, the ability to be completely present while doing, completely centered while moving, completely at peace while engaging with the world. It is not about escaping activity, but about bringing a different quality of awareness to activity. When you are grounded in presence, action becomes effortless. You are not acting from compulsion, anxiety, or the need to prove something. You are acting from a place of inner alignment, responding to what the moment requires, rather than reacting from old patterns or fears. There is a flow to this kind of action, a grace that comes from being aligned with the deeper intelligence of life. Most people experience action as effortful, stressful, driven by the sense that they must constantly do something to maintain their security, identity, or sense of worth. But when you act from stillness, you discover that the most effective action comes not from force, but from presence, not from pushing, but from allowing, not from ego, but from being. The practice is to bring conscious awareness to whatever you are doing. When you are washing dishes, be fully present with washing dishes. When you are walking, be completely here with each step. When you are speaking with someone, give them your complete attention. This is not about being slow or methodical. It is about being present. You can move quickly when necessary, but you move from presence rather than from anxiety. You can handle multiple tasks, but you handle them one at a time with full attention rather than scattered focus. You can deal with challenges, but you meet them from inner stillness rather than inner chaos. This quality of action is actually more efficient than the scattered, anxious activity that characterizes so much of modern life. When you are present, you make fewer mistakes. When you are centered, you see solutions that are not visible when you are stressed. When you are grounded in stillness, you have access to a deeper intelligence. The key insight is that you are not your activity. You are the awareness in which activity arises. You are the stillness that remains unchanging, whether you are active or inactive, busy or quiet, engaged or at rest. When you remember this, you can engage fully with life without losing yourself in the details of what you are doing. Work becomes a form of meditation when you approach it with presence. Relationships become spiritual practice when you bring awareness to them. Even routine activities like cooking, cleaning, or driving become opportunities to deepen your realization of who you are. This is not about performing perfectly or never making mistakes. It is about bringing the quality of presence to whatever arises. It is about responding from wholeness rather than reacting from fragmentation. It is about doing what needs to be done without losing connection to the stillness that is your essential nature. The world needs this integration. It needs people who can act from presence rather than from unconscious reactivity. It needs individuals who remain centered while engaged, peaceful while productive, loving while effective. This is not passive spirituality, but engaged wisdom. When you master this art of stillness in action, you become a beneficial presence wherever you go. You radiate peace not through what you say, but through how you are. You solve problems not through force, but through presence. You contribute to the world not by doing more, but by being more fully who you are. Your life becomes a teaching, demonstrating what is possible when human beings learn to live from the source of life rather than from the surface patterns of personality and conditioning. You become a bridge between the transcendent and the immanent, showing that it is possible to be fully human while remaining grounded in the infinite. As our exploration draws toward its natural completion, we arrive at the recognition that stillness is not merely a state of consciousness you can access when needed. Stillness is the very foundation of existence itself, the source from which all life emerges and to which all life returns. It is the unmanifested dimension that gives birth to all manifestation. When you look at a tree, you see the visible form, trunk, branches, leaves. But what you cannot see is the invisible intelligence that coordinates every cell, the life force that flows through every part, the stillness that allows all growth and movement to happen. This invisible dimension is more fundamental than the visible form, more real than what appears to the senses. You are not separate from this source. You are not someone who occasionally connects with stillness. You are stillness itself, temporarily expressing through the form of a human being. Your thoughts, emotions, body, and circumstances are all temporary expressions of the eternal stillness that you are in your essence. This recognition changes everything about how you live and who you understand yourself to be. You stop seeing yourself as a fragmented being, trying to find wholeness, and begin to recognize yourself as wholeness itself, temporarily appearing as an individual. You stop seeking peace outside yourself and begin to live from the peace that is your fundamental nature. From this deeper understanding, life becomes not a struggle to achieve something, but an opportunity to express something. You are not trying to become enlightened. You are expressing the enlightenment that you are. You are not trying to find God. You are allowing the divine nature of existence to express itself through your particular form. This does not make you special or superior to others. It reveals that what you are is what everyone is in their essence. The stillness you have discovered is the same stillness that is the core of every being. The peace you have found is the same peace that is available to all consciousness. You are recognizing not your personal greatness, but the universal nature of being itself. Living from this recognition brings a profound ordinariness to existence. You do not need to maintain any special spiritual identity or prove your realization to anyone. You simply live from the source of life, responding to whatever arises with presence, love, and wisdom. Your spirituality becomes invisible, integrated, natural. The world continues to move and change around you, but you are no longer at the mercy of external circumstances. You know that no matter what happens, you cannot be separated from the source of all peace. You know that beneath every appearance of chaos lies the perfect order of existence itself. This knowing is not a belief or a concept, but a lived reality. It is the direct recognition of what you are, what life is, what existence itself is in its deepest dimension. It is the end of seeking and the beginning of expressing. It is the recognition that you have always been what you were looking for. The invitation now is not to achieve anything or go anywhere, but to simply be what you are, to live from the stillness that has never been disturbed, to express the love that has never been absent, to embody the wisdom that is your birthright as consciousness itself. In the silence that follows words, in the space between thoughts, in the stillness that underlies all movement, there you will find not something new, but what has always been present. There you will recognize not a special state, but your natural condition. There you will discover not who you might become, but who you have always been. This is the deepest teaching and the most practical wisdom. You are what you seek. You are the stillness you have been trying to access. You are the peace you have been attempting to find. You are the love you have been seeking to experience. You always have been. You always will be. Rest in this recognition. Live from this understanding. Express this truth not through words, but through your very being. This is enough. You are enough. This moment is enough. All is well. The chaos of the world continues its dance, but you remain as you have always been. Still, present, whole, home.